Good. The scarlet letter.
So tonight we're discussing Gimmel. Okay, Gimmel is an interesting letter. It's the first letter after Bet. Now, why is that important? Because we discussed last week that Bet is the vessel. It's the first point where the light actually hits this cosmic vessel. The physical vessel, that means the vessel of ideas. That was what Bet was, which is why we talked about how the tzaddik really is the culmination of this idea that he holds the key to these vessels, how to properly dispense this light meaning an analogy of Torah and will of God into the world. So the tzaddik has mastered this ability to do this, and he becomes the central force for a central vessel, so to speak, in a cosmic or a metaphysical way, for dispensing the will of God. So Gimmel is the first letter after this process, and Gimmel is looks like it's walking, right? Gimmel has a lot of different implications, but ultimately speaking, it spells Gimmel, Yud Mem Lamed, Gimul. Right? It's Gimul Hasadim, right? Loving kindness. So we're already in Pirkei Avot in the first chapter in the second Mishnah. It's a very famous Mishnah. It says Shimon the righteous was from the remnants of the Great Assembly. He's the first leader after the Anshe Knesset Gedolah, after the Great Assembly. Does anybody know who the Great Assembly was? They actually redacted the I don't want to say Torah. Let's put that to the side, but the rest of the Bible up until that point, which is why Hanukkah is not in the Bible, and they were able to do it because they have 3 prophets on the Anshe Knesset Gedolah who came back from Babylon with them, and those 3 prophets gave it a level of prophecy. So everything you have in the Bible, at least in what we call the Bible up until this time, is infused with the power of prophecy. It's not just words that the Anshe Knesset Gedolah redacted. It's editors. Every moment in there is actually infused with prophecy, which is very powerful. So Shimon HaTzadik, actually his grave is up there. You can go to it. It's on the east side of Route 1, okay, near Arzebira. So you can go there, and the east side's in the middle of the Arabs, but there are a lot of there's more and more Jews kind of surrounding it. It's a very, very powerful grave. So he was the first leader. He's a very powerful leader. He's the first leader of the Jewish people in the land of Israel after the Anshe Knesset Gedolah was handed off to him. So he would say, on 3 things the world stands. The world is founded on 3 things: on Torah, on avodah, on service. It's translated as service here. I just took it directly. But avodah, what's avodah? Avodah is Beit HaMikdash, what they would offer in korbanot in the Beit HaMikdash offerings. Nowadays it's prayer. And on acts of loving kindness, which is Gimulut Hasadim, okay, giving to one another, giving to poor people, or even helping people out, charity, all sorts of different types of things. That's Gimmel. Okay.
Tzedakah falls under that?
What's that? Tzedakah, yeah. Tzedakah is a form of Gimulut Hasadim. So this is one of the 3 things that Shimon HaTzadik, Shimon the righteous, was said that the world is founded on. It's not just, what's interesting enough is Gimmel is the gematria of 3. Yeah. It's one of the 3 pillars, and it's a gematria of 3. The Mishnah in Masechet Peah and Tractate Peah says there are things that is the first one. Actually, we say it every morning. There are 3 things that have no measure. These are the things that have no measure. Peah, which is a corner of the field, you give that away to the poor people. Bikurim, these are the first fruits you bring to the Beit HaMikdash. The sacrifice. Truma is not one of them. What it means is having no measure is that you can do a little bit of it, and it's like, you can do a little bit of it, a lot of it. There is no midah. There's no measurement to the actual quantity that you give. Truma, there is a measurement for. These are things that have no measurements. You have peah. According to the Torah, there's no measurement. The rabbis actually put measurement in because it got a little confusing. But that's why this is right now discussing no measurement according to the Torah. Peah bikurim, which is the first fruits. The korban ri'ah, which is the sacrifice upon which you bring coming 3 times a year to the temple. Gimilut chasadim, which is acts of kindness, and the study of Torah. Okay. These are things the fruits of which man enjoys in this world. We get the perot, the fruits, and the keren, the principle. The main part of this mitzvah that you're doing is actually the world to come. Okay, what are they? Kibbud Avadim, honoring father and mother, acts of kindness, Gimel Chasadim, and bringing shalom between 2 people. And the study of Torah is equal to all of them. So we have 2 out of the 3 pillars are here, by the way. And we have Avodah, which is also 3. So the Peah brings in this Pirkei Avot again in a different way. But 2 times you have Gimilut Chasadim, acts of loving kindness inside this Mishnah. One, in terms of having no measure. You can do a little bit of it, you can do a lot of it. And the second thing is, you actually don't even get the full measure of reward in this world. You get just kind of like the leftover fruit of that, so to speak. You're actually getting, you get the whole measure in the next world when you move on. Once Rambam brings this in, this is actually would be interesting to everybody seeing the table. In Mishnah Torah, it is a magnus opus of all the halacha, the Jewish law. He says towards the end, in the laws of kings and wars, it appears that we treat a ger toshav, a resident convert, as he would be a Jew. That is with respect and loving kindness. Okay, since we're commanded to keep him alive, as it says, to the stranger who is within your gates, you shall give, that he may eat of it. Okay. So that's another proof of Gimilut Chasadim being this very powerful entity. Okay, that is there are a lot of more sources for it, but that's, the three of them I felt were very, very foundational to our discussion.
So Ger Toshav would be something that we would probably all love to hear your dissertation on at some other point as well.
Yeah, we're not gonna, it's a discussion. It's really not me having any sort of, how do I say it? I'm not a postic by any stretch of imagination, so I'm not going to come up with any sort of decision, but I think it's important to have a good discussion on it. So Gimmel, as I said, is like a walking letter. It's walking away from Bet. Bet is, once again, the house, and Gimmel is now going. It's moving. Yeah, it's moving forward. It's the first time we have, in reality, in conceptual reality, this idea that light takes form, which is Bet, but now Bet has to actually take action, which we see in the actual the letter itself. It's taking action, it's walking, it's moving. But what does that mean, taking action? Giving to one another, helping one another out is the action, the ultimate action you can do. Right? In the three actions we're supposed to take in that Mishnah, which is Torah, sacrifice, and loving kindness. Torah is in here. I can learn with somebody else, and I can give them Torah. That could be an act of Gimmel Chasadim, but Torah itself, learning Torah, is between me and God. Korbanot is between me and God. And nowadays it says that we don't have any korbanot anymore, so where's Avodah? Avodat HaLev, in the heart. Which is tefillah. That's the korbanot. So we only have one action out of those 3 things, which is designed for me to give to another person. So we have, that is the Gimmel. Gimmel is Gimul. I'm giving, I'm moving to do an action to give to somebody else.
It's going towards Dalet, which is Dalim. I'm so excited. Yeah.
That's $1 Delet, opening.
The door.
So we have the Mishnah in Shabbat. The first Mishnah in Shabbat is talking about a poor person coming to your house on Shabbat, and he's standing outside your doorway or window. It's the first Mishnah, and it's without an eruv, which is a fence or a wire that goes around a section, you can't carry on Shabbat. So imagine a place with no eruv, no line. So a poor person comes up to you through your window and says, "Can you give me something?" So how you give it to him is very important, opening the door for him. It says you have Delet, right? So we have these sort of, inside the letters, you have this kind of idea of taking action. And this foundational idea of Gimul Chasadim is there. Okay.
Do you think it's not too big a coincidence that the ability to do some of the things that we mentioned now have been removed in the greater schemes of things, that it leads you to actually now indulging, or not indulging in, but actually focusing more on the practical side of acts of loving kindness? It's almost as if there was such a lack of it, maybe to an extent, that it's like, okay, let's see how well do you handle with this, because this is what you can do, excluding all the other things that have been taken.
Well, the question is I understand where you're going with this. The challenge is that Shimon Tzaddik came about at the beginning of the second Beit HaMikdash, not at the end. So he's giving us the foundational concept. He's giving the foundational concept. And without slipping into the other discussion, the idea that there was something new that particular people were talking about at the time isn't true. particular people without going into names, because just for repeating Pirkei Avot, which is the quintessential ethics of the Jewish people. Nobody else would have known that, though, unless you were a Jew.
Mm-hmm.
And which why there was nothing big. There was nothing earth-shattering what was being said. But those Mishnayot, they're old Mishnayot. They're old. They go back to the beginning, and that's not an accident. So these are foundational concepts. These three things are foundational that the world is built on. Now later on in Pirkei Avot it says the world is built on other things as well, truth, So, but it starts off with these three concepts. These three concepts.
They're all in Torah. Even the others all go back to Torah. The truth, everything's there.
For sure.
In these three. Yeah.
For sure. These are three pillars. These are three foundational ideas, three concepts that you have. So, Gimmel, very interesting enough. Taking a look at the structure of the Gimmel, any idea what it's what letters it's made up of? Take a stab at it.
Yud.
Good. Where's the Yud?
Bottom one.
Mm-hmm.
That looks like the line of the Vav. Vav and line, it's leaning Vav.
Yeah, but is it a Vav or another letter?
It's Tav. Am I saying no?
Zion.
Design, exactly. Design.
Mm.
Okay. So we're going to break apart. Like we can do this almost every letter except for we know Yud is really the only letter you can't do this with. But so we'll focus on there's two letters inside Gimmel. There's the Yud in the bottom, and there's the Zion. Okay, Zion is the gematria of 7. I'm sorry, gematria, 7, and the Yud we know is 10. That's 17. Okay.
Yud is 10.
10. This makes up the word tov.
Tov.
Hmm?
Good.
That adds to the weight of Gimmel being good. Gimmel is saying giving good to another person.
So 12 is the gematria for 17?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Another word of this 17 is egos, just nut. Okay, now what's going on here? This is not an accident. What's going on? The Baal Shem Tov talks about this.
Not in the food.
Okay, so we're going to get a little bit of Kabbalah here, but it's important to eventually get into it. Just structurally speaking, in terms of how the world is set up. When God created the world, he pulled back, right? Or he seemingly pulled back. We understand he didn't really pull back because that'd be kind of impossible for it to have a lacking in God. But he seemingly pulled back. And when he did that, he created the ability to have negative, both negative and positive actions. So he also created this idea of coverings, like you were talking about a few weeks ago. So egos is an example of that. It has 4 layers to it. Okay, you have 3 klipot, which are layers, and you have a 4th klipa. Yechezkel talks about this, hints to this in other ways. Okay, and inside is the pri, it's the fruit. So why is the egos tov? What part of the egos is tov?
Pray
The fruit. Fruit. What's our job?
to remove the kippot.
Take away the layers. Problem is, 3 of the layers are very hard. They're not, and in real terms, they're evil. They surround the things that we're supposed to get to. That's why things are always very hard. Good things are hard to get to. When we want to strive in life, it's not about being easy. It's not usually that easy. It's hard. And there's a 4th layer that's around called the klipat noga, which is the thin layer, which is some people say you could rectify with the fruit. You can pull that out and they can uplift that with the fruit, which is the thing you're trying to get to in any particular situation. The 3 layers are for sure evil.
So the 4th layer is kippot noga.
It's the light. It's a thin layer. Okay, Chesed talks about this in the first chapter of Chesed. That's where it comes from. And mystical thought expands on this, and Chassidus and Tanya talks about this in the beginning. And all evil comes from these klipot, including the exiles the Jewish people have been in, which there's been 4 exiles. Okay, there's 4 elements. We talked about this before. That they got messed up in the beginning of the world, i.e., the 4 elements turned into these, weaved around, and these klipot took over. These 4 not so good things. They're going to cover everything over. The job of the Jewish people is to go and uncover these things, unpeel these things, to uplift, to find the fruit in everything. Fruit or mitzvot, usually. Fruit or mitzvot. So Gimmel Chasadim gives us the ability to break open the egos. The nut. That's the idea. That's what tov. How do I find the tov in something? I have to break it open. When I give to somebody else, why am I giving to them?
Mitzvah.
Well, what's caused me to give to them? Not just a mitzvah.
The Gimmel is like giving back, so it's the action.
So
It's wanting to help them. It's just
Right.
wanting to do some good.
we've talked about before. All things occur here. It means here is very important. So what do I see in the other person that causes me to give to them?
Need. Hashem. Well,
Tov,
need
right?
wants you, but
Tov.
it's Tov.
Nikudat tova. Rabbi Nachman speaks about finding nikudot tovot, good points in everybody. And that way you sift through the bad and good. And you can add, by finding someone's good point, the bad falls away. It's a very famous Rabbi
Find the
Nachman.
gold in the dust.
It's a very famous Rabbi
Gold
Nachman
in the
Torah.
dust,
I don't know who
yeah.
they're about. And he talks about this because that's how we have to go about doing things. So if I give to somebody else, the biggest thing I can give to them is an ayin tova. It's a good eye. The same Pirkei Avot later on, it talks about different midot, different character traits people have to have. Ayin tova is considered at the end of the discussion the most important one. If I look at somebody in a good way, then I'll find the good point in them, and I want to give them loving kindness, Gimmel Chasadim, and that's the Gimmel right there. That's the Tov.
And it relates to the laws of proper speech.
Everything.
It starts there, right?
That's right.
It starts there, and then it moves down and comes out here. And
Zion is the Gematria 7. We talked about that. Once again, there's 7. There's 6 midot, and there's Malchut, kingship. We talked about that, speaking of the vessel on the bottom. So that's inside the Zion, which is inside the Gimmel. And there's also a Yud, which is the 10 Sfirot, the 10 character traits, but totally squeezed into a small point, but with 3 points on the outside, which is the 3 faculties of thought, of intellect, which is Chachma, Bina, Dat. So if you take those 3 and add them to the Zion, once again, you're back to 10. That's another way to look at the Gimmel. Okay? So the way we transfer this point, this Yud, which is really this compound, this point, the smallest point, we were talking about Nukudot before, points of goodness, look at the Yud inside the Gimmel, and that's the Nikuda Tova. I'm giving that Nikuda Tova because I found it in that person, that good point, into that other person. I'm actually drawing it out by giving to them. Okay? So it's the Gimmel also, moving the point over. Okay. Any questions? Nothing? Ken, come on.
But
You're usually full of questions.
But you can sort of expand it. I mean, if we're looking for the liquid, in each person, it's like you can spread it out to every situation. Every, it's kind of a redeeming factor.
For sure, that's the Rabbi Nachman teaches. It's a singular teaching from him in the sense that I've never seen it anywhere else ever. That one, he teaches one little good point, and all the evil goes away. You find he teaches if you find even the most evil person, you have to find something good about them. So if you find something good about that one little evil person, you have the power to draw the good, and his evil falls away.
did he write anything about how to practically do that?
In terms of
but some of his followers.
So if you see,
Reb Nosson was very all over the place.
I mean, the first thing is just be looking for it, to be aware that it's
Mindset.
there. Yeah.
Start by yourself. He starts in yourself.
Yeah.
Then start in your family. Then start in your community, your nation, and you start looking out. And yeah, it gets situational. The most powerful part of it is situational. Any situation you gotta find the good in it.
So it's like kind of what you were mentioning when when you said that
It's the Tov.
Haman was the
Oh.
friend of the Jews because he brought them to effective
That's right.
repentance.
That's right.
So find the good in that.
You see, I mean,
That's right.
sure.
In which we've talked about before, the most powerful weapon that the Sitra Achra has in this generation for sure is depression. And Rabbi Nachman teaches elsewhere that how by looking at the bad points in people, you create a flood. Because it creates negative energy, then you start speaking bad about them and each other, and it creates a storm wind out of your mouth that just can wipe out the whole world. So you have to reverse that. Exile is caused by sinat chinam, free hate, open, endless hate, and so the only way to reverse that is by finding good in everybody. And there's no situation that's beyond redemption, right? And every day is a singular day. So every day is this moment where you can, it's not the same as before. And there's this idea of just I'm different now. Whoops, I'm new. How's that possible? Because I found a Nekuda Tova. The most powerful thing you can give to someone else is a Nekuda Tova. That allows, tzedakah and all sorts of different things. That's rectification.
So how does rebuke fit into that?
You can't.
Prophetic rebuke, like where it had a purpose to call back. Once things get to a stage where it's about to, implode completely. With the redemptive act not being making a straightforward rebuke, but in the sense of the way you do it, the action itself.
How you do it is important. How you do it is important. Already in Rabbi Akiva's time, they said that giving a rebuke would be almost impossible because you wouldn't be able to do it from point of ahava, of love. Certain tzaddikim can do it. That's about it. Rabbi Yosef Tzatzal, he used to give a rebuke a lot, but he was coming from a place of love, and people would listen to him. But most people can't do that. First of all, we're taught to have dan l'haschut, to judge. You have to judge everybody favorably. How's that? Why? Because you can't judge anybody dan l'chovah. You can't give them judge them unfavorably unless you're standing in their place. It's impossible standing at everybody's place because everybody has a different place they're standing at. No one has the same situation or the same decision. That's why the only responsibility you have to have is on yourself. You can't have responsibility about it for anybody else. Obviously, people are married; they have to work together. But on a day-to-day basis, you can't really thrust responsibility on other people for their decisions. You have to deal with them. You have to not like their decisions, maybe, but they themselves, why they made those decisions, that's what it's talking about. You can't judge them for, because you're not in that makom, you're not in that space. Only Hashem is in that space, and only He can judge, and He judges everybody favorably. That's the rule. That's the rule.
So is rebuke the same as judgment on that? I'm just a little confused because I think somewhere in Proverbs it says that the deepest blows clean out the most evil sometimes. So how does that fit in?
Rebuke's different. Rebuke is I give someone tochacha in Hebrew, right? I give a smackdown because I want them to do better. I'm just saying that can't happen now because we're just not at that level to do it out of ahava. If you're not doing it from a place where you love the other person, you see that good point in the other person, you're actually trying to bring the good point up by giving them rebuke, then it's not going to work. It'll only reverse the situation, make it worse. The rebuke, in the time of the prophets, when they're giving a rebuke, they're giving national rebuke, and they're hoping somebody listens before it's too late.
Yeah.
But they were on the level to be able to do it. They're prophets. That's a very different situation.
So was it because of the fact that it was a corporate rebuke? It wasn't calling anybody out, anybody specifically out on their issues.
That's right. I think national rebuke is acceptable. I think you can say nationally we're not doing the right thing, and it's a very different thing. You're not putting anybody on the spot. It's a collective rebuke. Even the person giving it is basically saying they're part of that.
So how do you deal with in a community setting something that needs addressing? How do you do that?
Quietly. Quietly.
Yeah, amongst leadership.
I've been in that situation before. Quietly.
Yeah.
I've heard it compared to a hamburger, where even if parents have to rebuke their children, or correct them or instruct them, it's the hamburger is the meat is the rebuke, and the two buns are love. I mean, so they have to know it's coming from love. Then you give it, then you finish. Like the prophets always ended with hope and love. You know, I mean, so
That's right.
it's like then it's palatable. They'll eat the
That's right.
hamburger because it's couched in they know it's from love.
It's interesting enough. I think it just popped in my head that the rebuke of the prophets was before the first temple was destroyed, and we seem to have hearkened to at that time to the rebuke and came back 70 years later. Since no one was on the level, even Rabbi Kiva says, of giving real rebuke, there's nobody to actually steer the course after the second temple, and we ended up going to much larger exile for that reason. There's no prophets. Much harder.
So in terms of judging favorably and the laws of proper speech, I'm just trying to work this out in my head here. It does have to start with the judging favorably, right? That's really where, if you back it all the way up, that's where it starts. If you don't judge somebody favorably first, then the negative words can come out. I just hope it's time is just churning up here. So, okay.
Well, everything begins with Ayin Tova, a good eye.
Yeah.
Look at someone favorably. You're gonna speak about them favorably, and you're gonna be able to give them tzedakah where they need it. So Gimmel is also a language of Gimmalim, and I want to tie this in together. Okay, right. Those are camels. Gimmel is a camel. Okay, so a few parshas ago, a few weeks ago, we had. I think a few weeks ago. Wait, 2. Not last parsha, the parsha before. Okay, Yitzhak Avinu, he wants to find his wife. And Eliezer goes to find his wife, and 2 times camels are mentioned in that. A few more times, but let's just say 2 main quintessential parts. He's praying in the field. It's the first time you see actually the Torah mention somebody going and praying to God, having a conversation with God. Right? Yitzhak is this like quintessential character that's doing that. He's having he boded a session with God. He's asking. He's like, wants to find his zivug. Is one person he wants to marry to. My wife pointed out a few weeks ago that actually you see that like, wow, Yitzhak didn't marry anybody else. It's like they're like this perfect couple. That's very true. Yitzhak and Rivka are this sort of quintessential couple where they don't marry anybody else. There's no other handmaid. There's nothing. Like, this is the person he's been waiting for his whole life. He could have married anybody. He's like a walking angel. And she's coming down, and it doesn't say how many days he's doing this for, but in one of the sessions, he's in the middle of the field, and she's coming down the Eliezer, and she's in the camel, and she sees this amazing person, and she falls off, and she has to cover her face because it's just a powerful point. So that's where we see camels in that part. So what's going on? What's the point of that camel, and what's the other part where we see the camel in that parsha? The other time we see exactly Gimmel Chasadim. Why did Eliezer pick her? One, it answered all the questions he wanted to have. He said exactly the way he asked God to help identify. And what's the camel? What's the whole thing with the camels there? Like, okay, like who cares if she gives water to the camels? Because back then it was customary. You always give water to somebody. That's how you greet them. Because in the middle of the desert.
Not all the camels.
But the camels, waste water to camels. Well, the same camels is a language of Gimmel Chasadim, Gamal. Gamal is Gimmel Chasadim. It's Gimmel. So that's the biggest act of Gimmel Chasadim you see. Is loving kindness. And that basically locks her in to being the mother of the Jewish people. And sure enough, she falls off the camel. Right? She falls off this camel. But that's the tide. He was that made her basically. They say that Abraham Avinu is Chesed, and Sarah is Din. And we see this in the personalities that we played out, but it's reversed by Yitzhak and Rivka. Yitzhak is Din because he never leaves Eretz Israel. He's just like kind of lofty personality no one really connects with in out of all the Avot. Because he's really moved from the world. He really did get burnt up. That's what's going on. It's just he didn't. It's like he lives in two worlds at the same time, as Rashi says. Which is why he's blind. One of the reasons why he's blind is because he actually did get burnt up. That's not the only explanation, but that's one of the explanations. So he's din, he's restrictive, but she, Rivka, is the opposite. She mirrors Abraham, Chesed, Gimmel Chesedim. She's able to see kindness. She's able to give. It's because she sees goodness. Okay, we got 2 more minutes. Questions?
So the Gimmel just leads to Geula, the Sof.
So you can finish off like this. It's not
Must be.
a rough cook. It's very, very high. It's a whole deep explanation, almost poetic explanation of every letter. It would take us like a long time to go through each thing, but it's, at the end he talks about Gimmel being like this. The word Gimmel is, I said, Gimmel Yud Mem Lamed. A few times ago, maybe it was just last time, I talked about Chashmal, Mal. Okay. The silent voice of Eliyahu that spoke to Eliyahu. How could God have a silent voice and speak to somebody? Which is talked about. This is connection to the just a little pushback on your theory that speaking to God, it doesn't really mean speaking to God. It's just it's written down like that because we wouldn't be able to understand it. Really, when the ultimate speech to God is silence, and that's when it all comes in. That's when the Das Elyon, the Dot Elyon, the supernal knowledge can come in. We see in Gimmel, which is the word Gimmel Yud Mal, which is silence. The Gimmel and Yud, Rav Kook talks about it as being like it's touching, and the Mal is it's not touching. It's still not here yet. It's still on the move. The will of God is still coming in Gimmel. Right? Because Bet really isn't the will of God. It's just the first point where the light can be contained, so to speak. Right? It's the first conceptual vehicle we have to transmit God's light. But Gimmel still isn't here yet. Gimmel sometimes here is not here. It's the first point we can touch to have an experience with God, and sometimes he's not here. He's touching and not touching. Okay?
Where's that? Rav Kook.
It's in Rosh Milin. Rosh Milin, sorry.